You know, the motorcycle community is amongst one of the best out there, and I've had a chance not only to meet a lot of y'all, but meet other people inside of the community. And I have to say that if you are looking for a social space, maybe a place where you can break out of your shell, motorcycle community is one of the best to actually do that in, right? There's not a lot of posturing. It's just people that love riding motorcycles. But I kind of equate some people in the motorcycling community or even industry as fishermen. They believe a lot of old wives' tales, and unless you've seen a picture, you may not want to believe the size of the fish that they actually caught. And that's what we're going to talk about today as I give you the 7 biggest lies told by the motorcycling community. Now, to be fair, a lot of these things that motorcyclists say, they may not even see as a lie. It may just be things that have kind of passed down through generations even, you know? And so that's what I'm going to talk about today, and hopefully we can kind of break the mold on some of these, and I can shed some light on what the actual truth is with a lot of this stuff. And so no matter if you agree or disagree, because there's going to be some spicy topics in here, make sure you leave your opinion down below in the comment section. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, the first lie I want to talk about here involves motorcycle helmets. Now, I could probably come up with an entire list. You know, I could do my own 7s of lies told about motorcycle helmets, but let's just focus on one for right now, and that is field of view. So what a lot of riders will say that don't like wearing helmets, or amongst one of the things they will say, is that it restricts my field of view. And so basically what they're saying is that, you know, from side to side, my peripherals can't pick up what's going on around me because I have a freaking helmet blocking it, right? I have the shell of the helmet actually blocking it. But the problem is DOT actually requires that you have 210 degrees of peripherals, right? So you basically have 105 degrees in the sagittal plane, which is basically left and right. So 105 degrees this way, 105 degrees this way. And humans have total 180 degrees of peripheral vision. So the requirement of 210 degrees is actually greater than what humans can perceive anyways. Now, there will be times where you simply have to turn your head a little bit in order to see what's going on. That's something, I don't know, even if I wasn't wearing a helmet, or if I am wearing a helmet, I would do that anyways, right? You would just turn your head sometimes because you want to be able to see more of maybe what's coming up behind you, or when you're merging and things like that. So these helmet manufacturers, you know, I know people talk about DOT and, you know, the rating isn't as good. They use self-certification. Well, you know, they do have random tests that occur as well, where inspectors will make sure that they're following, you know, penetration tests and all of that kind of stuff too. And this field of view is super important. Now, I have seen some videos, and maybe it's because of different ratings. I'm not really sure, but there have been some videos out there that I've seen where you have 180 degrees, you know, only, right? Or, you know, full 180 degrees. And so maybe those aren't DOT helmets at all. Maybe those are different laws for different countries. That I'm not too sure of, but in the United States, it's supposed to be 210 degrees total field of view inside of your helmet, which is going to give you way more than what a human can perceive anyways. Next one I want to talk about is one that you need to see video evidence of in order to believe, and that is, I had to layer down. Very similar to some of the extensions of the truth, or stretching the truth, or what you'll find in the fishing world. This is another one that has been perpetuated for, you know, decades, I guess, at this point. I tried to find the actual history of I had to layer down. I don't know if it started with a saying in a movie or what. If you know, make sure you leave that down below. And it is often, what I hear anyways, it is often said by people that kind of give the impression that they know exactly what they're doing on a motorcycle, and they've been doing it for a long time. And so it's almost like saying, I had complete control. And at that moment, it was better to be off of my bike than on my bike. I got this one guy in mind I used to work with. And he had like, I don't know, 6 motorcycle accidents. Pretty lucky to just be walking with a limp, to be honest with you. But he was that guy, you know, hey man, what happened in this motorcycle wreck? Because, you know, I want to learn from people when I'm talking to them, see what kind of mistakes maybe they can take from that accident, you know. And there was a couple he admitted, hey, I was going too fast, or, you know, even worse, I was drinking or whatever. And these are real conversations too, by the way, with the guy I used to work with. And, you know, then there was the one, you know, I had to lay her down. He basically had to avoid somebody that had, you know, pulled out in front of him, and his best option was then to slide uncontrolled on the pavement and allow his bike to just frickin' tumble and roll down the road, destroying his frickin' bike. And to me, it just sounds ridiculous, especially if you've ridden a motorcycle. And, you know, the whole tactic of saying I had to lay her down just simply means that I didn't have control, or I didn't know what I was doing. Things happened too quick. And this is the last kind of hope I can hold on to, that people will believe that in all situations I know what I'm doing, as opposed to, and that's the long way around the answer of saying basically I don't know what I'm doing. But then there's the other side of it, which says, hey, I made a mistake. I grabbed that front brake too hard, or I slammed on that rear brake and the bike came out from under me. And in my mind, you can take more away from that situation if you're not trying to basically BS yourself inside of your own head. You can kind of analyze, okay, you know, I wasn't paying attention far enough up the road, didn't anticipate this car pulling out in front of me, you know, I'm not that good on the front brake. So these are things that obviously I want to practice in the future to get better at. And plus, you know, the whole idea that I laid her down also insinuates that somehow you're stopping these 2 big gyroscopes that are underneath you, that are designed and made out of rubber, that actually grip the road, and then negating all of that. Instead of being able to just stop on a dime or scrub off speed and swerve, you are able to stop those gyroscopes, lock up that rear wheel, lay her down, control your slide somehow, and that's better than just, I don't know, braking and swerving to avoid that obstacle, and keeping your bike upright and preventing not only injuries to yourself, which is most important, but also preventing your motorcycle from scraping down the frickin' highway. It's one of those things that has been called out a lot, especially with, you know, the internet and people that make videos. And I guess I'll play one small part in this conversation, but it's definitely one of those, you know, just one of those sayings that now when people, you know, spew it, it's kind of cringeworthy, because, you know, they're basically just full of. Now here's another one that I've actually dedicated entire videos to, and that is loud pipes save lives. And this is another interesting one to me, because unlike I had to lay her down, people will still defend the whole loud pipes save lives argument. Now granted, there could be a possibility that a driver inside of their car, which is typically you know, soundproofed to an extent, maybe they're listening to the radio, they're on the phone with their spouse or one of their kids. Maybe they're thinking about what the hell they're going to cook for dinner, or any number of things that humans, we have to kind of worry about, right? They may be first world problems. They maybe not, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole wide range of things that are, you know, people are thinking about while they're driving. And I'm not saying that that's the best approach, right? Obviously, we would love everybody to be paying attention to the road and what's going on around them. But the reality is that's just not the case. There could be a small chance that there's a person out there that wasn't listening to the radio. They weren't on the phone. They weren't thinking. They were just, you know, clear-headed. And somehow they heard your Reinhardt's, Tab Performance, Vance and Hines, whatever, on your Harley Davidson. And because of that, they avoided you. Or you avoided the accident because of your loud pipes, and they were able to hear through, you know, their soundproof car. I say soundproof, I say that very loosely, because every car manufacturer is different when it comes to this. But essentially, cars are getting quieter every single year. Let's be honest, loud pipes cost a lot of money. They sound good, right? People really want them on their motorcycle, and that's about where it stops. There's no, there's maybe a little bit of functionality. You might gain a little bit more horsepower or whatever. It's not going to be much, but typically we do it because it sounds good. We don't want to be listening to a tin can under us. We want to hear all 1900 cc's up under us, and that just, like I said, it just sounds freaking awesome, right? Either way, we install pipes, mufflers, full exhaust systems for us more than anybody else. It's not some kind of safety measure. Now, you may be able to tell your wife that, hey, I bought these pipes because they do save lives. Maybe she believes it. Good for you. I'm proud of you, slugger. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't do a whole lot for you. Training and paying attention to what's going on around you, and just knowing, just situational awareness is going to do a lot more for you than those pipes will. But again, they sound really good, and that's the whole reason that we put them on. Now, this next one is more of a lie we tell to ourselves than maybe to anybody else. Well, maybe we tell it to other people too. I have no idea, but I know from personal experience that this one can really hinder you as a rider and the progress that you make. And that is, I needed to go ahead and upgrade. I outgrew whatever bike you were currently on. And chances are you probably didn't outgrow it. Now, there's not really like a set timeline as to when you should, upgrade your motorcycle. But one common thing you can use is, with my current bike, can I do, a U-turn, a 20-foot U-turn, maybe even 22-foot U-turn with that smaller motorcycle? Can I do a figure eight, slow cone weave, slow turns from stops, all that kind of stuff? If you feel very comfortable with that, then chances are maybe you do need to upgrade. But if you still can't do that, if you still can't, make a U-turn inside of, 40 feet with a smaller motorcycle, there's no way you're going to be able to do it with a bigger motorcycle. That's not to say you can't learn on a bigger bike, but it's going to take a lot more time. So learning those fundamentals when you're on that smaller motorcycle is going to give you advantages when you do decide to upgrade. And man, I did this when I first started riding back in 2006. I had a Ninja 500. And the very first bike I ever rode was a Ninja 250. I bought a Ninja 500 because I'm like, yeah, 250 is just, it's just too small. And I don't know, maybe 2 months later, I was on a Ninja 650, right? And so, very quickly, I just upgraded like that. And that's why that 1 year that I rode from 06 to 07, I don't even count that as riding. I count that as basically learning how to work a clutch and a throttle. It wasn't really riding. Only recently, when I started getting into baggers, did I take this stuff a lot more serious, because then I'm like, all right, I can't do a U-turn, on my street glides. But I started on an Iron 883, and that bike, I was starting to learn the basics, but no way, shape, or form did I actually have that mastered. So it's made, transitioning to a bigger motorcycle that much more difficult. And of course, not going out and not training, 30 minutes to an hour a week, that's hurt progress as far as, U-turns and doing all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty good from slow stops. I'm pretty good, stopping and going and all of that kind of stuff. And when I say stopping and going, you may be saying, oh, well, everybody can do that. I'm talking about controlled stops and all of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about like controlled turning and, anyways. The whole point is, if you can't do it on a smaller motorcycle, you're not ready to upgrade. But once you can master that stuff on a smaller bike, you may be more than ready to upgrade. And of course, riding styles change too, right? In 06 to 07, my first choice was sportier type of bikes, more like sport touring, and a Ninja 650. Well, when I came back in 2017, I pretty much knew I was going with the Harley Davidson. I wanted a cruiser. I knew that my back would not be able to take me leaning over a tank any longer at all. So I knew that my style had changed. And, it's also maybe dependent upon the friends that you have. If they do a lot of, long distance riding, your Sportster may not be sufficient for you anymore. So you kind of say, man, I really want to upgrade. And that may light a fire under you to actually, learn that smaller bike. But I promise you, if you take the time to learn that smaller bike and be able to do all of the things we've talked about so far, it's going to make your transition to a bagger so much easier, because now you already got it. Now you're already comfortable leaning that motorcycle. Now this next one, you may really believe this yourself, or it may be a great selling point to your wife once again, but at the end of the day, saving money owning a motorcycle is not that realistic. Buying the motorcycle, right? So let's say your beginner bike is, I don't know, $8,000, maybe even $10,000 to $13,000. Maybe you start with a big bagger, so you're 25,000 plus or 30,000. So that initial cost, right, is already a lot of money. You can buy motorcycles as much or more than a vehicle, than a four-wheel vehicle. You could also buy bikes that are cheaper than a lot of modern cars too. So there is a wide range there, but depending upon how much you spend on the bike, you could already be spending more on that motorcycle than a regular car. Trust me, I understand. A regular car is not nearly as enjoyable as a motorcycle, but if we're going to keep it real, you're not going to really be saving a whole lot of money right off the rip, again, depending upon what you buy. But then, let's say you do buy a cheaper motorcycle. Well, you have the insurance for that bike. Typically, it's going to be cheaper than what a four-wheeled vehicle will be, but you still have to pay for it. Tags, licensing, whatever is required in your state. Motorcycle gear. So again, this depends, are you going to be fully geared up all the time? That's going to cost you a lot of money. That's something I've talked about before. I believe in buying that stuff before you even get your motorcycle. So that way you have a real idea of how much this stuff costs. But good helmets are going to range, $300-$500 up to $1,000. Gloves, boots, Kevlar infused pants, and then there's jackets, and then there's cold weather gear, and then there's chaps. Rain gear is another thing that you absolutely want. Maybe you don't have a garage right now, so you need a nice cover for that motorcycle. And don't even get me started on accessories. I mean, accessorizing your bike is something that pretty much everybody does. Exhaust, handlebars, stereos, saddlebags, saddlebag liners, tour pack liners, tour packs, engine upgrades. There is so much money you can sink in that motorcycle, and vehicles are a little bit different. There's a lot of people that will accessorize, but there's a lot more, I think, that will just kind of leave them stock. They might buy little things here and there, whether that's, I don't know, upgraded floor mats or something like that, but typically it's not a lot. And so like me, I keep my truck stock. I just run it the way it is. First of all, I ain't trying to mess up any kind of warranty because vehicles are expensive to repair, so that's one thing I don't want to have to worry about. But then with my motorcycle, there's a lot of things that change and a lot of upgrades that go into it. And then there's the maintenance side of it, right? Replacing brake pads on a motorcycle, changing tires, right? It's not like changing a tire on a vehicle, right? That's something that a lot of people can do, but on a motorcycle, it's a little bit more specialized. Now, there are some things. There was actually something I found at Daytona Bike Week that makes it possible for people to change out their own motorcycle tires. It was actually a pretty cool setup, but not everybody is going to do that. So if you go buy your set of tires, let's say from, I don't know, maybe every 5 to 8, maybe 10,000 miles for your tires, maybe 15 to 20 possibly on the rear tire. So you're having to change the tires out way more often than what you do on a truck or a car. If you don't have the balancer, if you don't have a way to take that stuff off, if you don't feel comfortable taking those components off, well, then you're going to have to pay that hourly rate of whatever shop, deals with motorcycles. So you've changed those tires. Let's say an average set of tires lasts 40 to 50,000 miles. Well, you've changed that front tire maybe 10 times over, and front tires on a motorcycle could be $200, maybe $150, up to $300, $400, depending upon if you're paying for installation too. It can run you a pretty penny. Doing oil changes is another thing. That's typically going to be like, after your first 1,000-mile service, which is, it's super important. It's going to be more expensive for your initial service, but then after that, every 5,000 miles. So maintenance costs alone, you're not really going to save that much money. The one area you may save some money is going to be, like I said, a little bit in the insurance probably, but then also a little bit in gas. Not only are motorcycles just faster than pretty much every vehicle out there, and best bang for your buck performance for sure, but also they get really good average, fuel economy. The manufacturer may say 50 miles per gallon, but the way you ride it may be 35 or 40. So either way, you're not going to be saving a whole lot of money buying a motorcycle. That's not really the point though. So again, if you're using this as a selling point to your significant other, go for it. Who am I to tell you any different? Because I would probably do the same, but just know deep down, it ain't going to save you that much money. Now, if you do want to save a lot of money, there is something that I can help you out with there, and that is my discount codes that I have exclusively for you right here on the channel. So make sure you check the description of this video, and any specialized discount codes are actually coming to Headshot Nation. That link will be down below as well, which is our exclusive community where you not only get early access to videos, exclusive videos, there's courses that are going to be added. There is a whole ton of content coming right there and already on Headshot Nation. So come over and check it out. First 30 days are free and is an awesome platform that I've set up just for our community right here and our gun community as well. So if you enjoy both channels and you want them all in one, come over and check it out. Now here's a lie that we've all told ourselves at one point or another, and a lot of us believe it's not going to rain. You don't need to bring the rain gear. Why even bother with it, right? Not everybody is rocking saddlebags and tour packs, you know, or even tank bags at that. And so in order to carry rain gear, obviously you got to have space for it, but you may be out doing other things, right? You may have just gone out for, I don't know, a ride with your buddies on a Saturday. Maybe you guys are going down for the day, a couple 100 miles, looks pretty clear, and you're like, dude, I don't need to bring it. And dude, I understand, even as simple as it can be with saddlebags, tour packs, and all that, roll it up, throw it in there, you're good to go. Sometimes you're just like super convinced in your head that it's just not going to rain. But especially this time of year, where in the southeast a thunderstorm can pop up like that, you need it on you 24/7. Now I've been caught in some pretty nasty rainstorms, you know, over the past few years, and there's a couple that stick out to me, and that one from last year I think is probably the most intense. When I was meeting a buddy of mine, he lives about an hour and a half away. We were going up to Tennessee, which is about about 6 hours away actually, where he lives in Tennessee. So anyways, it was a good little ride, but you know, the first hour and a half of the trip, I was like, we'll be good. And I was prepared. I actually brought my rain gear. I put it on once I felt that first drop hit me. Actually, maybe a drop of rain didn't even hit me at that point. I think I just saw the clouds in the distance, and I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and prepare for this. You know, I brought everything. But one thing I hadn't considered is what happens when the sky falls and you literally can't see anything in front of you. Well, I have a shaded visor, right? I didn't bring my clear visor. And then I also have dark, you know, shaded or polarized aviator glasses that I wear that are prescription. So you'll see me in the video like literally rip those glasses off. I stuff them in my rain jacket, which wasn't zipped up all the way, by the way. And so didn't tie the bottom of my pants off or something. And either way, I was definitely soaked from my waist up for sure, because I didn't zip it up all the way and I just couldn't see. And it's just one of those things, you know. Visors is another one that you probably want to consider too, because sometimes you think you don't need a clear visor with you. You're just going out for the day, so why would you need that? But then things happen just like that. You know, it turned from daylight to nightfall, you know, for a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it was a serious rain. So anytime you're going out, especially in the South during the summer, pretty much anywhere, try to make sure you get that rain gear, you know, and take it with you wherever you can put it. You can easily store that stuff in a tank bag as well, especially if you start rolling your clothing, your extra clothing. That's going to save you a lot of room. Just a little, you know, pro tip there if you didn't know. Now this one could be highly subjective, but I know that a lot of us do believe that our bikes are chick magnets. Now maybe you actually live in a college town, right? So you're always kind of downtown where the parties are happening, and you know, there's girls everywhere and they want to ride on the back of your bike. Well, you, my friend, are living the time of your life, and make sure that you enjoy it, because it doesn't last forever. You're probably only 10 years removed from basically getting compliments from nothing but old men in gas stations. Now, when I say old, 40, 50, 60-year-old guys, hey, that's the majority of our crowd there, brother. And so I really love this crowd because they're a great group to have around. But don't expect a whole lot of women to be coming around your motorcycle and saying, "Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get on the back of that thing," or can I get a ride? I mean, we do see some of those videos on YouTube. There are exceptions to this rule, and maybe you're just like super stunning, right? Maybe you don't wear a helmet and your hair is flowing in the wind and you're just that exception to the rule. Again, I say take advantage of it. You're living your best life right now. Most of us, again, we're going to be getting a bunch of compliments, probably fishing for those compliments from other dudes. It's just unfortunate. Even though we've built up this reputation through Hollywood, TV shows, whatever, even in our own heads, that motorcycles are instantly a chick magnet. It's better than Match.com or any other dating website that you could imagine. It's just simply not the case most of the time. And the last lie we're going to talk about is actually a big one, and that is deer whistles. Things that you can put on your motorcycle that cause a high enough pitch whenever you're driving down the road, and deer are supposed to kind of be warned of your presence and that you're coming and hopefully get out of the way before you get to them. But there's been no real proof that deer whistles do anything as far as helping you be seen or heard. Better yet, there's been some evidence that says they could actually hurt your chances of being heard. I found one interesting study, I think it was from 2009. There was like 61,000 vehicles in Michigan that had been involved in deer-related accidents, and there was 10 deaths, unfortunately, from those 61,000. All 10 deaths were motorcycles. There's estimated to be like 1.5 million accidents related to deer every single year in the United States. So these things do happen quite a bit. I know you do, and I have. You go into work or you're coming home from work, you see a deer on the side of the road. That is, just a kind of a dark, sad reminder that this stuff really does happen. And hunting actually is a fantastic thing, and hunters actually help keep the population under control. So that is something that thankfully, people that hunt in this country actually are serving a dual purpose, feeding themselves and their families, and also keeping that population under control. But the deer are still out there, and of course they run mostly in the morning and at night. So anywhere from really dusk to dawn, you can definitely see deer running. Now, typically, when they run across the road, they're going to travel in twos and threes, sometimes in a group, of more than that. Very rarely will you see just one deer cross. Lighting is another thing I'm a big proponent of, not only for other drivers to see you, but so you can see deer up the road a little bit further, as long as you're not outrunning your headlight. The deer in the headlights is one of those phenomenon that happens. The deer sees the light, kind of like confuses them or causes them to freeze for a second. But if you can see them in time, then that will allow you to buffer a lot of your speed or even come to a complete stop and kind of wait to see what the deer is going to do. They recommend don't swerving if you see a deer. They actually say it's probably better, like if you can't scrub enough speed and you're going to run into that deer and you have no option of swerving or whatever, sometimes they say it's better to just kind of run into it, right? Kind of like the Titanic. It's sideswiped that iceberg. If it would have ran into it, it probably would have stayed afloat. We're not the Titanic, and I'm just using that as an example of something I know about, but I'm just, telling you that sometimes it may be better, but at all costs, obviously, we want to avoid that. And so buffering speed, swerving only if it's necessary, only if it's safe to do that, right? Because a lot of this stuff happens on, 2-lane rural roads. Now you got cars coming the opposite direction. You can see how that can be a really bad situation. We make up like 70 to 75% of the deaths involving deer in the United States, even though we're, 1% of the driving population. Covering your brakes is another great idea, just like what you would do at an intersection or anywhere you feel like, you know, there could be a situation where you need to stop. You know, there used to be this rural road that I would take all of the time, and I mean, it was notorious for deer and accidents, people running into trees, unfortunately head-on collisions sometimes. And so that is, you know, it was like a, I don't know, 6 to 8 mile stretch of road where, you know, just keep the brakes covered the entire time and stay super vigilant. And sometimes it's best to just slow down, especially at nighttime. Make sure that you bring that clear visor too, for nighttime riding, or just keep it on. I know my Shoei actually has a clear visor now, and then it has internally that additional shade that I can move down and you know, have the best of both worlds. So yeah, don't believe the hype when it comes to, you know, deer whistles and all of that. If they finally come out with something that can help us be heard sooner so deer just get out of the way, that would be awesome. But for right now, it's going to be up to you to take extra precautions when it comes to that. And that's it, man. Now I have actually 7 more ideas that I would like to put in a video like this. If there's a good response, if you guys like this type of video, make sure that you let me know by dropping a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think some of the biggest lies motorcyclists believe and some of the things that we should probably stop believing. Make sure you leave all that stuff down in the comment section below. I might use one of your examples in our next video. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.